Hey, this is Matt. Once again, we're about to the videos of the paid requests, this time from Mr. BlockWorld. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for Summer Camp Nightmare, a 1987 film, which I think still is not on DVD or Blu-ray. It's only on VHS, which I had heard of this film before, but I had never seen it. Now, the way it's marketed, you would think it'd be a slasher film, a horror film. It's not. It's very mismarketed, very misleading marketing campaign. I think a lot of people would see that be turned off and disappointed because of that. But the movie itself I didn't mind. It's based on a book called The Butterfly Revolution, which I've never read. It's pretty much, if you take, people said this before, if you take the film Meatballs, you meet it with Lord of the Flies, you get this movie. That or a very, very dark version of Camp Nowhere, which maybe 3 people remember that film, with Christopher Lloyd. A very dark, not that dark, but a darker version of Camp Nowhere. Or Heavyweights. But these kids are being brought to this summer camp. Our lead kid, Donald, he's recording memories on his tape recorder. It was funny, he opens up his suitcase and it's like got a car phone. I'm like, what the hell kid had a car phone in 1987? Didn't even see a suitcase phone. I say a car phone, but it's like a phone in his suitcase. With the cord in it, I'm like, damn, how rich are your parents? And so they get and meet up with the camp director, played by Chuck Connors, who I remember from the TV show The Rifleman. He was in this film called Tourist Trap. Good actor. And a first chunk of the film are the kids didn't know the camp, didn't enjoy the camp, doing activities like swimming. There's a talent show where the girl camp come by. The girls from their camp come by and they have this talent show where they sing and then some boys sing a song called Beef Bologna. But Chuck Connors, he's not being mean. He's not being an awful person, but he is being strict. Like they try to get some porn on the TV because on the TV it's only some religious show stuff. Chuck Connors gets upset with them about that. There's a place called The Pen. They'll put troublemakers in. But it's, it's glorified principal's office. The talent show, he breaks up and goes, okay, it's a bit too much. And you know what, we're going to cancel this dance. So the kids aren't being happy with Chuck Connors. He is being strict. I would say too strict. But at the same time, he's not being vindictive, mean, villainous. He's just strict like a principal. And, sucking a bit of fun out of the camp experience. Donald meets up with this camp counselor named Chris, and they form a little bit of a friendship. Sorry about the background noise, it's just how it is. Out here in the middle of nowhere, roosters and chickens and everything, all sorts of wildlife. But amongst the older people, there's a guy, I forget the character's name, but it's the actor Charlie Stratton. I'm like, why does he seem familiar? And I realized he was the star of this film I saw a lot when I was a kid, called Munchies. Which I don't know why I never picked up the Blu-ray. It might be out of print now, but I'm like, damn, I remember. That's the guy from Munchies. He did another film? Because he always reminded me of William Ragsdale from Fright Night 1 and 2. Because I remember, I'm like, is that William Ragsdale? Oh, no, it's this guy. So yeah, the star of Munchies is in this, which I got a kick out of. I thought he was the best actor in the movie. And he's sort of the lead antagonist because he kind of studies what's going on. He's able to cross this broken bridge fairly easily. But at the same time, he seems helpful. He's helpful to the kids. There's a kid that's almost drowning, and Charlie Stratton saves the kid, our lead kid, Donald. He tosses other kid, and this kid's being tearful, and he's like, oh, why the tears? And the kid goes, well, I forget the characters' names, but Chuck Connors pretty much making it seem like Chuck Connors had molested him. So, of course, Charles Stratton gets mad about that. So, but at the same time, in a weird way, it's kind of ahead of its time in terms of cancel culture. You hear about something, but there's no proof, so you go up topsy-turvy with it. But also there's a part of you, as you watch it, going, maybe this was just kind of something to give him a reason. Like maybe he wanted to take over this camp from the get-go, but it's kind of his reason. He finally got his main reason to be able to fully realize his idea. Because when the kids are swimming, he kind of has this one scene where he has this kind of smile on his face. Like, it looks like the kid is almost drowning, and he kind of smiles, but then he saves the kid. So again, as if he's looking for opportunity for this to come about. Sadly, with the film, though, is that you never really get any depthness to that character. You never really get to find out what his whole deal is, what his reason for it being, if there's anything more to it. But you just say, oh, because he really thought that Chuck Connors was this type of sicko pervert. And you think a part of them does believe it. Because there's a bit where Chuck Connors goes and tries to lecture them. And Charles Stratton goes, yeah, I bet you wish you were just some boys. And Chuck's like, what do you say? And later on, when they grab him and they go to put him, lock him up, it says, what you did to that kid when you guys are trying to catch butterflies, your butterfly hunt, what'd you do to him? And Chuck's like, what are you talking about? So again, is it because he was gung-ho and believed in this kid? Or again, was it just a reason, the final reason for him to finally justify to other people and overtake the camp? I don't know. I wish we could have learned more about that Charlie character. And that's the thing, you don't really get to know about much of the characters. Because when that happens, this revolution, this liberation happens, and a good chunk of it is them just partying. Having fun, partying, having a good old time. They got the girls' camp and locked up some of those counselors, and the girls are having fun with the guys, and they're kissing, and they're partying, and they're listening to music. And it's one of those things that, in a weird way, is still somewhat entertaining. I think because some of the personalities involved. I do think Charlie Stratton does a good job. He does seem like a guy that you get why people kind of look to him as a leader. He seems very sure of himself. I do think he's the best actor in the movie. The lead kid, Donald, it's Adam Carl. And I'm like, why does that name sound familiar? I'm like, is that the same? And it is. The lead kid in this movie would go on to voice Donatello in the second Ninja Turtles movie, Secret of the Ooze. Now, granted, because he's a kid, the voices are different, so it's not like, oh, I can hear Donnie. I can hear Donatello's voice. But I thought that was cool. Like, each time I see the lead kid, I'm like, oh, that's Donatello. To me, the best live-action Donatello, because Corey Feldman sucks. I always thought he sucked as Donatello in the first and third movie. I think he sucks. I don't like him as a person either. He worked well in Stand By Me and The Goonies and The Burbs and some other stuff, but he's a crappy human being. Corey Haim was better, and he was a much better Donatello, because as much as I love the 1990 movie, his Donatello sucked. Tried to be Mike D Part 2. Adam Carl was a much better, I repeat it 10 more times, fit for Donatello. So, let's see what he did before that. And he does fine as well, like the acting's not the problem or anything. And spoiler alert, spoilers. Halfway through, they're trying to mess with Chuck Connors. The nicer teen Chris says, "Hey, leave him alone. This is ridiculous. Fine, get him locked back up." And this guy, I think he's nicknamed Runt the Punk, takes Chuck Connors, and they get in a scuffle. Chuck Connors accidentally falls on the guy's knife, dies. He's tearful. Charlie Stratton goes, "Okay, keep this quiet." Then the other thing is one of the girls gets assaulted by one of the cohorts of Charlie Stratton. Charlie makes a trial. Seems like he's taking it serious. Then says, "Okay, here's his trial. You're going to go across this bridge. If you fall, either you're going to die or you're going to get a lot of broken bones." But the guy makes it. The girls are pissed. So they all grab the guy and they take him away. And later on, the lead kid finds that he's been hung. Which I'm like, well, he is a rapist, so can't really feel bad for him. So the kid tries to get help. He is caught. He knows that he's going to be forced to go on that bridge the next day. Talks with the guy, Chris. And Chris tells him, "I talked to that one kid. He said Chuck Connors never did anything." "You mean he made it all up?" "Yeah, but we can't confirm it anymore, so because we don't know where Chuck Connors is. In fact, he's probably dead." So the next morning, Chris is trying to get help, or at least contact for help, while the kid has to go across the bridge. Chris comes back, fights some people, a big old fight breaks out, the cops come, and then everything is settled. Now, it's one of those things where the story was engaging enough to keep me interested to see what would happen next. I think for me, it's just a number of things. Number one, summer camp films are intriguing to me because I never went to a summer camp. I know this sounds ridiculous of a reason, but to experience something I never got to experience in the real world, but I experienced it through these kids' eyes. Granted, part of me wonders if I would even like summer camp, because to be in the middle of the woods and no internet, well, back then, but it's like, I want my movies. I don't know about this stuff, but maybe for experience one time be interesting. I do like some of those movies like Meatballs, and I remember not minding heavyweights in Camp Nowhere, but it's been forever since I've seen those movies. And they don't really make summer camp movies anymore. Now I think about it. Not even summer camp slasher films anymore. I guess summer camp is not really a thing people think of nowadays. Just screw it, we got our phones, our computers. Screw that shit. Liking some of the actors, like Charlie Stratton, and is the kid that grew up to be Donatello. Let's see what he does. So that leaves a bit of intrigue for me. I wish there was more built into the supporting characters. Like there's this guy, this bigger black guy, that seems like he would be an important character. He's an ally to our good guys. But you don't really get much of him character-wise. You don't really get to know much about him. And there's not a lot of the other supporting characters you really get to know much about. Other than them partying and stuff. And again, there's some funny bits, whether intentionally or not, like the talent show with them rocking up to Beef Bologna, that song. I think people get a kick out of that. Definitely that, I would say 80s vibe, but it takes place it was made in the 80s, so of course it has it. I will say though, while I did not mind the film, I liked it. It does come off as very tame. Very tame. Because like I said, it seems like everything's going well for a good chunk of it until, oh, we gotta have something, okay, well, this guy accidentally killed Chuck Connors, and then this assault thing. But it seems like for most of it, it comes off as very easy going. And you think with this kind of film, there'd be a lot more friction, where then there'd be these two camps, and how you really see how things really change for the worse. It becomes much more of a dictatorship, much more abusive, much more violent, much more. The fun is gone, except for the ones who will serve. It felt like it wanted to go in a darker direction and it didn't. So it kind of feels like a made for TV movie. It does come across as like a made for TV movie at times, with how tame it is. And I don't know what the rating for this film is, but it cannot have been rated R. Because there's nothing in this movie that would show rated R. There's really no nudity that I can think of, unless the adult films that we're watching. Violence, I mean, the stab you don't really see. The guy aftermath, you see him hung, but you don't see the actual hanging. PG-13. Yeah, I guess PG-13, I guess so. But yeah, it's one of those things that you may watch the film and go, wow, it doesn't seem like a whole lot happens. At the very least, they should chastise that kid for making up that story. I'd be going to that kid, go, what the hell are you doing? Why'd you make up that story? Why'd you lie about Chuck Connors? What the hell were you doing? Because the guy Chris says that he made up the story. I'd be like, you little shit. Huh? Well, you can't do that, but pile driver. But he's 5 years old. I mean, he's 10 years old. I don't care. He's easier to lift. Stone Cold Stunner. You know. Choke slam. DDT. You little lying fuck. Throw you in the garbage with all the garbage. You chastise the kid at least. Talk to him. Ask him why you made it up. Tell everybody that you made it up. Come on, kid. Tell everybody you made it up. And then maybe that would cause friction. Like, wait a minute, you said... So he really didn't do that. Because, yeah, he was stripped, but he didn't come off as a bad guy. And wait, he is innocent? I think a lot more drama could have been played off with that, but they didn't really go that direction. So it doesn't have the exploitation and violence and nudity that some people would be looking for in a film called Summer Camp Nightmare. It doesn't have the hefty drama I think you could really elevate it story-wise in the second half. Even the third act is like the kid's on the bridge. He's hanging for dear life while Chris, fights Punk the Runk, or Runt the Punk, and then fights Charlie Stratton. Everybody starts fighting everybody, but it's kind of just people kind of pushing around. There's nothing too extravagant to the fight. It's kind of just, okay, push each other, but don't quite hurt each other. And at least with that, and maybe develop some of the supporting characters, I think there could be a lot more merit to this. There's not a lot of meat on its bones, is what I'm saying. There's not a lot of meat on its bones. But like I said, the premise, some of the actors, it doesn't feel too long. Weirdly enough, I wasn't that bored with the movie, despite it didn't seem like a whole lot was happening, but I guess just you're living vicariously through the characters of what would you do if you enjoy a camp like this. I think maybe just because, oh wow, it's nice to see some of these actors, and sometimes that's how it is with me. If it's an actor I recognize from something, especially when I was a kid, I'm curious to see what this guy does. Okay, yeah. My brain is wired differently from everybody else, so. But I guess maybe some could view it as, in a weird way, more realistic, where if things were that crazy, then people would just try to hightail it, try to steal cars. But because everything seems fine, that's why so many kids are still gun ho to be part of this regime. Because as far as they know, the only things that have happened is they don't know Chuck Connors is dead. They just think he's locked up. The guy, most of them don't know he's hung. They know he assaulted someone. So the other kids, they just, for the most part, think it's a party. Now, granted, you think some more would question. That's another thing. Like, there's a little kid. I guess he's like 10, 11 years old. They don't put him on a bridge. You don't have more people questioning it. See, that's another thing. Like, during that scene. Like, they just watch, but there's a few people like, okay, when the time comes. I'm like, shouldn't you do it before the kid's on the bridge and he's hanging for dear life? What you gonna do? Wait for the kid to fall to his death? What if Chris isn't back in time and then go do it? If it's people question it, and then maybe Charles Stratton pulls out his gun, you back up and quiet down. So that's why they're not questioning more so. But the fact that nobody questions it to begin with is a bit weird to me. Yeah, let's just let this little kid go on this bridge that could possibly fall to his death, and they don't even know for certain as to what he did that was so wrong to possibly end with his death. The fact that nobody really questions Charlie Stratton, that's a bit weird to me. So it's a film that I think a lot more could have been done with it. It was interesting to watch at least one time. I don't think it's bad enough to not get a DVD, let alone a Blu-ray. It wouldn't be my first, second, or third choice because, I mean, there's a lot of films now on Blu-ray. Gleam in the Tube with Christian Slater, 3 Men and a Baby, Nothing to Lose with Martin Lawrence. There's a tons of stuff, but I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was bad, but I think it does have its issues. Like I said, just a bit tame. I think the ending kind of meh. And I think a bit more could have been done with the premise. But overall, I said not a bad film. I see Adam Carl, So Young, and Charlie Stratton, among others, so there's that at least. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.